The galaxies up there are spinning, but the stars on the outside are going faster than the stars on the inside. The galaxies gradually lose their spiral shape. So the question is, if they're billions of years old, why are they still spiral shaped? Why are there spiral galaxies? Well, to the Christian creationist, this is no problem. They're not billions of years old. Real simple. Stars are blowing up once in a while. We call it a nova or a supernova. And yet there's only about, seems to happen about every 30 years, kind of as a rough average. When they look through the heavens, though, they find less than 300 supernova rings. That's only a few thousand years worth. Why aren't there millions of them? Some evolutionists say, well, new stars are forming to replace the ones that are blowing up. Well, that's baloney. Nobody's ever seen a star forming. We cover lots more on that on video number 7. The teachers are taught to tell their kids that red stars slowly evolve into white dwarf stars, and it takes billions and billions of years for this to happen. That's what the textbooks teach. Well, it does seem to be true that red stars apparently change to white stars, but it doesn't take billions of years for this to happen. All the ancient astronomers described Sirius as a red star. Everybody said it was red. Study back in history. Sirius was a red star. Today, Sirius is a white dwarf star. We know what happens in less than 2,000 years, yet the textbook says it takes billions of years. Some of the planets are cooling off. You can't just keep cooling off. Pretty soon you're cooled off. I mean, if you came in the room and found a cup of coffee on the table and I said, don't touch the coffee, it's hot. And you said, whose is it? I said, I don't know, it's been sitting there for 400 years. It's kind of hard to believe, don't you think? It's still hot after 400 years. These planets cannot be billions of years old. Jupiter has a moon called Ganymede, but it still has a strong magnetic field indicating a hot inner core. Even the atheists will admit it should have cooled off billions of years ago. Well, it's not billions of years old. Figure it out. Saturn has rings around it, but the rings are slowly moving away from the planet. Saturn's rings are indication that it is not billions of years old. The moon is going around the Earth. How many knew that already? The moon goes around the Earth? Okay. Did you know as the moon goes around, it's gradually getting further away? We're slowly losing the moon. It's only a few inches a year. No big deal. Nothing to worry about. Plus, there's nothing you can do about it anyway. But the moon is getting farther from the Earth every year. Now, kids, this is going to be complicated, so listen carefully. The moon is getting farther from the Earth every year. So that means that it used to be closer. How many can figure this out with no help at all? Okay? Well, if you bring the moon in closer, you start to create a problem because the moon causes the tides. Now, you folks up here in Wisconsin probably don't worry about the tides. But in Pensacola, where I live, you worry about the tides. If you brought the moon in closer, the tides would be higher. There's a law called the inverse square law. If you brought the moon into 1/3 the distance, you take the 1/3, inverse it, and square it, it's 9 times the gravitational pull. If you run all the math on this, you'll find out about 1.2 billion years ago, the moon was whizzing around just above the surface of the Earth. That explains what happened to at least the tall dinosaurs. They got mooned. You can't say it's 4.6 billion years old. I'm sorry, that's just geophysically impossible. Comets are flying around through space, but they're always losing material. That's what makes the tail on a comet. You know, the stuff is blowing off. They only last about 10,000 years. Because you can't just keep losing and losing. You know, pretty soon it's gone. It's kind of like your checkbook. See, if your outgo exceeds your income, your upkeep will be your downfall every time. Well, comets are losing material. They last about 10,000 years, and poof, they're gone. I mentioned in a seminar one time that comets indicate the solar system is less than 10,000 years old. And this one atheist went home and devoted an entire website to me, an anti-Hovind website. There are now over 400 anti-Hovind websites. I'm so proud of myself. Hey, the Bible says we're supposed to be the salt of the earth. Salt irritates. If you're not irritating somebody, you're not doing it right, folks, okay? I offer to debate all those guys any day with half my brain tied behind my back, just to make it fair. They don't want to do that, though. They all want to get me into an email debate. I say, fellas, I type 12 words a minute with 19 mistakes. I get 1,000 email a week. I'm not about to get into an email debate with anybody. Okay, I can barely got enough time to sleep and eat. It's a busy life around my place. But if you want to debate me publicly, anytime, anywhere, all of you together, if you've got an anti-Hovind website, put up or shut up, you just pick your spot, I'll take them all on, in Christian love, of course. But this guy on his website said, Hovind, don't you know The reason we have new comets, we have comets still, is because new ones are coming in from the Oort cloud. That's their answer to why we still have comets. He said in the 1950s, a Dutch astronomer named Jan Oort proposed, that means he hoped, he wished, he prayed, that there was a great shell of comets out there putting new ones in all the time. He said this Oort cloud is 50,000 astronomical units away. Well, in case you don't know, an astronomical unit is the distance from the sun to the earth. That is called 1 astronomical unit. It's real hard to see Pluto without an incredibly good telescope, and Pluto is 39.44 astronomical units away. You certainly cannot see a comet that is 50,000 astronomical units away. See, actually, nobody's ever seen the Oort cloud. Oort never saw the Oort cloud. The whole thing is based on a mathematical mistake. There is no Oort cloud. But this scoffer said, if you want to use the comet argument, it's up to you to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the Oort cloud and other sources don't exist. Now, slow down a minute, Dave. How do you prove the non-existence of anything? What he's trying to do here is called shifting the burden of proof. The liberals are really good at doing this on us, folks. It's so easy to shift the burden of proof. I'll show you how easy it is. Watch this. Suppose I said, watermelons are blue on the inside until you cut the skin. Prove I'm wrong. If all I have to do is make up a story and you got to prove it's wrong, I can keep you busy the rest of your life, can't I? And if all they got to do is make up a story about an Oort cloud and I got to prove it doesn't exist, I mean, come on, that's not how science works. You got to prove it does exist. What we know is we do have comets. We know they don't last long. We know the Bible says 6,000 years. I don't have a problem with the comets. But he's trying to make it look like I've got a problem with the comets. No, no, Dave, you got the problem with the comets. I don't have a problem at all. They fit fine with my theory. The Bible says the heavens declare the glory of God. Evolution theory has the sun and stars coming before the earth. The Bible has the earth coming before the sun and stars. Did you know absolutely everything about the evolution theory is backwards? I have Christians all the time say, don't you think God could have used evolution? I say, well, first, that's not what the Bible says. Second, you got a retarded God who can't do it right first time. He's got to practice. Thirdly, your God's cruel and ruthless, uses suffering, misfits, and death. You got a different God than I do. I'm sorry. Okay, no, God did not use evolution to get us here. We cover a whole lot more on that on video number 7 about the theistic evolution disposition. Everything's backwards. You know the Bible has the earth before the sun. Evolution has sun before the earth. The Bible has oceans before land. Evolution has land before oceans. We can go on all day about the differences between these two theories. They are not compatible. Don't pretend that they are. They're not. They're incompatible. They're opposites. The psalmist said, when I consider thy heavens. Hey kids, he says when, not if. You do yourself a favor to shut off that TV once in a while and go out and consider the heavens. Parents, if your kid likes laying in the yard looking at the clouds or looking at the stars, just leave him alone. Unless he's got some homework to do. Maybe that's the reason, you know. But it's good to take time to consider what God has made. The psalmist said, while I was musing, the fire burned. The word muse means to think. Think. English is a very cool language. Did you know a theist is a person who believes in God? If you put the letter A in front of that word, it means the opposite of. So an atheist is a person who does not believe in God. Muse means to think. Amuse means to not think. That's what the word literally means, to not think. They've got entire parks around this country where you can pay money and go do that. Have you ever heard of them before? They're called amusement parks. A place to not think, yes. He said, when I consider thy heavens, the work of thy fingers, the moon, the stars, which thou hast ordained, what is man that thou art mindful of him? You know, a person that spends his time considering what God has done is not impressed with what man can do. And some of you parents ought to go home and look in your kid's bedroom, and if what you see plastered all over the wall are pictures of sports heroes, think about it carefully. Your kids are being trained to meditate on what man can do. Whoa, he threw the ball through the hoop. Oh, did you see that? Oh, who's going to care in 1,000 years? Who's going to care in 20 years? Does anybody know who won the Super Bowl 10 years ago? Does anybody care? It doesn't matter. All those grown men out there fighting over that one ball, they can all afford to go buy their own. We get all excited over dumb stuff. Who's going to care in 1,000 years? It's been estimated there's enough stars that everybody on earth can own 2 trillion of them to yourself. Go spend some time looking at them. We could talk a long time about the stars. We'll cover more on that on video number 7, about the stars. How do we see the light, billions of light years away? Yeah, we got a long answer on that in video 7.